Hi, it's Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm, and I'm going to show you in a shot now that our garden soil here on the farm is not perfect. This is an area that was covered over by a tarp for most of the season, just removed it recently, and we've had some dry days, and what you'll see is that without vegetation there, this soil is heavy, thick, cracked from the dryness. A very heavy river silt, actually, as it turns out, that comes up in clods like this. You can imagine the difficulty that plants will have getting their roots deep into this soil, and yet behind me here, this is a garden that we put in just last year and established beautifully. So how do you do that? How do you go from this soil here to a beautiful garden with a wide variety of perennials, annuals, and shrubs? And the answer to that question is mulch. Let me give you a closer look at the material I've added here as a mulch. And what you're going to see as I break it apart here is that there are some larger chunks of wood, some composted bark, some mushroom manure, and a little bit of sand in there as well. It is what they sell locally here as a bulk blend in the landscape centers as either a topsoil or a garden blend of soil, but it is anything but soil. It's not a natural soil at all. It's made up of those ingredients that you might add to your garden as a mulch, and so that's what I've bought it for, is to put on as a thick mulch here. And what that does for my heavy soil, that underlying silt, is that when I water it and I fertilize it and get these plants established, it gives those plants something early on that they can put their shallow roots into and establish and don't have to fight against that thick soil. Of course, that thicker soil underneath is over time going to be conditioned by all this material on top of it, especially since it isn't going to get dry and crusty like that. Let me give you a close-up look now as I dig into it of what the underlying soil looks like underneath all of this mulch. Here's one of the rare spots in the garden that I haven't covered with plants, and you can see that obviously there is that mulch of bark across the top there. Some of the wood has surfaced, and let me dig down into it because what I really want to show you is how this interfaces with the underlying soil here. Hitting some roots, of course, from the new plants. Still in the mulch, still lots of big chunks of wood in there. And when I get right down, you can see that the existing soil is still present. I still have those big clods, those big clumps of soil underneath there, but because I've had the mulch at the top here, it hasn't gone dry, hasn't become hard for the plants to penetrate, and what's more, the plants have their roots up in this shallower surface area of the mulch, so it's helped them to get established in a period of time when maybe these thicker or harder chunks wouldn't have made it so easy for them. Other things I've done in this bed is, of course, I've been very regular about irrigation. You can see as I pull this away here that existing layer of soil is still down there, but the plants are thriving. And so as I say, I've been steady about irrigation. What I've also added is liquid fish fertilizer, which has a reasonable amount of nitrogen in it for fast plant growth. So I've been able to establish these well in here. Let's see how the perennials have done and the shrubs have done in this soil. Here in the other end of the garden, this is Roberto Capucci, a rose, and you can see the beautiful red, fresh new growth on there, and this may not show up on camera, but I just wanted to grab it from the base here and give it a quick shake as a shrub and show you that it is actually well rooted, not rockering in the soil. It feels to be extremely well anchored into the soil. Same thing with this Daphne. Over here we have this Mexican orange blossom. Other roses over here, including this very large or quickly establishing climber from David Austin. That's Malvern Hills, which they say is a scant repeat bloomer, but I don't believe it for a second. And all of these shrubs and perennials have anchored beautifully into this soil. So I guess what I'd love to see aesthetically is that if I dug underneath there, that the lower layer of soil is improving, but that's really not necessary. What I really needed in this situation was to get the larger perennials and shrubs to be able to anchor well into it, which they've done. And then from that point onwards, it just that underlying soil, which has its disadvantages of being quite thick, also holds a lot of nutrients, holds a lot of moisture, and anchors the plants beautifully. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick look at how we took our very heavy and not perfect soil and turned it into something that could support a wide range of annuals, perennials, and shrubs very quickly and look very impressive in 1 year. I think the question that people come up with often when they have a clay soil or a heavy soil is, how do I fix it? And what you'll see when I dug into that hole is what I didn't necessarily fix it, but the fix is when you can grow the things that you want to grow successfully, and that's the workaround. So adding the mulch on top has done that for me. And you'll also notice that that mulch that I used has a fair bit of sand in it. And what I've said in the past is, well, I don't think that digging up a big patch of clay and putting a bunch of sand in it is really a fix. It's not the sand that I have a problem with, it's the digging that I have a problem with. But if you add things as an organic mulch with a small percentage of sand in it to the top of your soil, and that works in over time, at least theoretically, what I should see in this patch is that with the established plants, with regular watering, with regular additions of organic matter, and with that sand in there, that over time, that boundary layer between the top mulch and the underlying soil below should improve the soil from the top down as nature intended. I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them into the comments below the video. Be happy to help.